What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one I'm going to talk about the Assistant Manager price reveals that have been announced by FPL today. I wasn't originally going to do a video on Friday, but as I'm not really doing anything else and the prices have been announced, I thought I'd quickly talk through it, give my reaction, when we might want to play the chip, which managers might be worth targeting, table bonus, and all that kind of stuff. I do have a video planned about doubles, blanks, and chip strategy before the Game Week 21 deadline, so I'll probably go into more detail about the Assistant Manager chip in that video, but this was just a quick reaction, one take type of thing. So if you want to watch it, great. If not, I'll include it in the other video that I've already got planned and started working on. So all 20 prices have now been revealed. At the time of announcement, Everton don't have a manager, so it's just blank. But it doesn't really matter because ultimately you're just picking a team. If the manager you go for gets sacked, resigns, gets red carded, suspended, can't make the match through illness, it doesn't matter. Basically, you're picking a team, right? So think of it like that. And just a reminder, you get like 6 points for a win if the team wins, but you get like 16 points for table bonus if the team they're playing against is ranked 5 places higher. So that is worth keeping an eye on because that is a lot of extra points, right? But we'll come on to that in a minute. So all managers are priced between 0.5 and 1.5 million. Interestingly, they're not all in increments of 0.5 million. So when prices for players get announced at the start of the season, they're all like 6.57, 7.58. For this, it's 0.5, 0.8, 1.1, and 1.5. I actually think that's quite good. And I think they should probably do that for player prices. The reason they don't do that is to keep it simple. But every now and again, a player's not a 4.5 or a 5 million player. They're like a 4.8 million defender or something like that. So I actually quite like that. The most expensive managers are Arteta, Maresca, Slot, Guardiola, and Eddie Howe, interestingly. Obviously, a lot of this is taking into account where teams are currently in the table, but not completely. I'm not convinced about Newcastle being 1.5. I know they're playing really well right now, but I don't think that... Like, if you're going to pay 1.5, you're just going to go for Slot, I think, for Liverpool, or maybe Arteta for Arsenal, something like that. To pay the same for Chelsea, Man City, the way they're playing right now, and Newcastle just doesn't make a huge amount of sense. And I guess, again, maybe there's only 4 tiers to keep it simple, right? You have 5 managers in each of the 4 tiers, but I would have had it like Slot, Arteta, maybe Maresca 1.5, and then maybe Eddie Howe like 1.3, 1.2. But I guess with FPL, a lot of it is just down to simplicity. And to be fair, it works. A lot of people play this game. So that's the 1.5s. 1.1, Iraola at Bournemouth, Hertzler at Brighton, Marco Silva at Fulham, Nuno at Forest, and then Postecoglou for Spurs. I can't see me paying 1.1 million for any of those managers apart from maybe Spurs. And the reason I say that is Spurs currently are quite far down the table compared to what we would probably expect them to be come the end of the season. So Spurs, if I just scroll this across, Spurs are currently in 12th place. So maybe 1.1 million could be worth it if they come up against some of these teams above them, which we know they can beat. But paying Forest, like paying 1.1 for Nuno at Forest when they're in 3rd place, that pretty much means you're getting no table bonus for any of their matches unless they go on a really bad run of form where they fall down the table. But even if they went to like 7th or 8th, you're then only getting the table bonus against Arsenal, Liverpool and teams like that. So there's just no way you're going to play it on Nuno. By the way, you don't necessarily need to play it on a manager where you're going to get that table bonus for the 5 places or above, but it's worth so many points, it's definitely worth thinking about. So I don't think the 1.1 million managers will probably get used all that much because for 0.4 more, you can get a manager mostly from a much better team, and for 0.3 less, you can target that table bonus a little bit more. Postecoglou is the only one that maybe I would consider. Like Fulham in 9th place currently, I just don't see me using it there because I would feel like if I'm not getting the table bonus, I just pay the extra 0.4 for more secure returns. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. This is what happens when you do it in one take, like 20 minutes after the announcement. 0.8 million managers. Emery at Villa, that could be interesting. Thomas Frank at Brentford, maybe. They've scored quite a few goals this year, but I just don't trust them to keep clean sheets. So the idea of them winning like a bunch of games in a row, they can do it, but I'm not sure I would go there. But Villa in particular, quite interesting at the moment in 8th place. Glasner 0.8. So Crystal Palace are sitting in 15th place right now. Now, you could look at it one way. They're in 15th because they haven't played all that well. But I think they are a team that's capable of doing better than that. So if we look at Crystal Palace's fixtures over potential doubles, so just a quick reminder, the double game weeks right now will probably be 24 or 25, and then 33 and 36. Now, Crystal Palace may not double, but you're going to use this chip over 3 weeks. So let's say you activated it in game week 31 for a manager, whoever that is. Game week 32, you could keep it on the same manager, maybe use a transfer to move to someone else, and then 33 on the double. In 31, Palace have got Brighton. So currently in the table, Brighton are more than 5 places above, right? Or 5 or more above. So if Palace were to win that game at home, you then get that table bonus. So they are a team that I'd be quite interested in. I also think, depending on when you're going to use the chip, if you were to use it like 35 to 37 and Palace were to double in 36, or maybe someone else you could move the chip to in 36, like playing again, like I think for a lot of this, Forest are going to be a team that are worth targeting because they're so far above other teams, and I don't necessarily think they're that much better. I know Nottingham Forest fans are going to kill me again. They've had a great season. They're a decent team, especially defensively. But from an attacking point of view, I think they're overperforming a little bit at the moment. So if the positions were where they are right now, where Forest are in 3rd and Palace are in 15th, I would bet on, for 16 possible points from this chip for 1 game week, I would potentially bet on Crystal Palace beating Nottingham Forest. So I think Nottingham Forest in particular are going to be quite important for when you might want to use this chip. Anyway, let's move on from them and Palace. Amorim, 0.8 million. Again, Man United currently sat in 13th place. You would probably expect them to move up the table by the end of the season, not necessarily into the top 4, but they've got potential to be higher up. So if they have a double or meet teams, a bit ahead of them, like Bournemouth in 7th, Nottingham Forest in 3rd, that could be quite interesting. And then Pereira at Wolves is also 0.8 million. I don't really... I do kind of get that because you probably have to put Leicester, Ipswich and Southampton managers in the bottom bracket, and Everton with no manager, it was easy to put them in the 0.5. But Graham Potter was the other one. Like, who's... I don't know, maybe I've got this wrong. Who's going to pay 0.3 more for the Wolves manager sat in 17th than the West Ham manager sat in 14th? Now, obviously, the positions in the table can change, but that makes 0 sense to me. And also, Graham Potter is a decent manager. I know he hasn't managed for a while. It didn't go well at Chelsea. But that is definitely some interest, I think. Graham Potter at 0.5 million. If we just look at West Ham's fixture schedule here, let me just bring up any of their players. Like later on again, let's just look around the doubles, right? So 31 to 33. You got Bournemouth at home. So Bournemouth are more than 5 places above West Ham currently. So that could be quite interesting. Bearing in mind you can use transfers to switch your managers around, and you're almost certainly going to want to do that. I'm not saying you'll want 3 different managers, but you might want more than one to have 2 total, because if you go for the table bonus in particular, I know I've said that a lot, like the points are huge. So you might look at West Ham at home to Bournemouth in game week 31. Some people might look to use the chip 36 to 38 as well. So you might use it on game week 36 where there's a double on whichever manager is doubling that looks like they're going to get 2 wins. Then maybe move it to Graham Potter for 37 against Forest at home. I mean, whatever happens to Nottingham Forest this season, they're probably going to finish fairly high. And whatever Potter does, it might take some time to get West Ham going. So if West Ham are 5 places behind Forest, that looks quite nice. And then they get to play Ipswich in 38. So even if you didn't want to switch managers or go for table bonus elsewhere, because West Ham will probably be ahead of Ipswich, that's still quite a nice fixture. So I think Graham Potter is of serious interest. This is definitely going to take a bit more thought, because if you want to switch managers, ideally you don't want to switch to a manager that's more expensive unless you've been able to free up the funds. So if you wanted to go from Graham Potter to Slot, so start with Potter, then go to Slot afterwards, you obviously need another $1 million in the bank. So it is going to take quite a bit of thought. Right now, I'm actually not sure when I'm going to use it. If I'm completely honest, I've already used my triple captain, so there is some potential for me to use it on Liverpool if they get the double in 24 or 25 with that Everton fixture. It just seems it's not all that interesting going for a manager that's not going to get the extra points for a win and a draw and stuff like that. So I don't know if I want to use it on slot. I'm a little bit tempted to save it until the end of the season, like 36 to 38. Now, some people might think, what about bench boost? You probably want to use that in 36, but potentially that could be used in 33 instead. And towards the end of the season, you start, I wouldn't necessarily say teams are on the beach, but sometimes you get like rotation because the teams being in Europe and stuff like that. So right now, I would not bet on Brighton beating Liverpool at home, but Brighton have got Liverpool at home in game week 37. So potentially, if Liverpool are still in Europe and maybe they've won the league at that point, there could be huge rotation. And if Brighton have still got something to play for, they could win that game, right? Because Liverpool just wouldn't have too much more to play for. So that's the kind of things you get from the end of the season. But there's so much to consider. Like if you use it on, let's say you use it on slot in 25, whenever Liverpool get their double, because they've got 2 matches, and then you wildcard in game week 30, then you're wildcarding without having to worry about freeing up money for a manager. So you can just put all your funds into the squad. But on the flip of that, this is all the things you've got to consider, later on in the season is probably when your team value is going to be at its highest, therefore you've got more money to spend. So there's no one size fits all. It's all going to be personal preference. The other thing I absolutely hate about this chip, and I don't want to be too negative about it, is we can talk about table bonus and current positions in the league and all that as much as you like. But if I say I'm going to play at 36 to 38 because of these teams, by the time we get there, there might not be a gap of 5 places. And therefore, you're not getting that extra bonus for wins and stuff like that. So right now, I wouldn't worry too much about what you're going to do. The deadline's not until Tuesday. I'm going to do a chip blanks and doubles video some point over the weekend to talk about this a little bit more. But essentially, you're going to want this chip to go over the double in 24 or 25, or the double in 33, or the double in 36. And that could be 35 to 37. It could be 36 to 38. That's going to depend on who you want to use it on. But you don't need to really worry about it for a couple of weeks. I think in each tier of manager here, the prices, slot's probably the most interesting one from the 1.5s because the rest of them aren't really getting any bonuses, and Liverpool probably the best team. Well, they're top of the league, right? 1.1 million, I think, Postecoglou, just because of where Spurs are in the league. 0.8, potentially Amorim. But I really like Glasner and Emery as well. I've been talking so much and rambling and not planning this video. I can't remember if I looked at Aston Villa. But they are currently, where did I say, 8th in the league. So maybe you could look at them. Again, Forest in 31. Southampton away in 32. Newcastle at home in 33, not that bad. But even if you just start with Emery in 31. In fact, let me just quickly look at this, right? So Emery's 0.8, so's Glasner, so's Amorim. Remember that if Newcastle go through to the final in the Carabao Cup, Palace will blank in 29, so they have a double in 33. So you could potentially start with Unai Emery in 31 against Forest, who are currently 5 places above them, I believe, right? 8th to 3rd, yeah. 32, you could maybe leave it on Southampton, and then you could just move to Glasner, who would have, this is where I find out the fixtures are absolutely terrible. It would be Newcastle away, who are above them, more than 5 places, and then Bournemouth at home, who are also more than 5 places above. So if Palace end up doubling in 33, that could be quite nice. So you go for whoever I just said, Emery in 31, someone else in 32, and then Glasner in 33. Let me just have a quick look at the 32 fixtures. Yeah, Brighton versus Leicester, not bad. Southampton versus Villa, you probably wouldn't do that. Bournemouth versus Fulham, maybe, but you're probably not getting too much bonus here. But you want a 0.8 million manager, don't you? So Thomas Frank would have Arsenal away. Villa would have, where is it? I'm just looking here now on the right. Southampton away. So you could just leave it on Emery. Maybe do 31, 32 Emery, then move to Glasner. I mean, ideally you want table... Sorry, let me just go back to this. Ideally you want table bonus each game, but it might be the case that we only get it in 2 out of 3 weeks or something like that. Anyway, I'm absolutely rammed now. It's 15 minutes for a price reveal video. I probably didn't even need to make this. If you've got to the end of the video, give it a like, hit that subscribe button. There will be a more structured video coming soon, so I look forward to... Or hopefully you look forward to that. Honestly, I'm all over the place today. Anyway, enjoy your weekend. Catch you soon.